We've got a pretty horrible situation unfolding. Officers were serving a narcotics warrant and gunfire erupted. The shooter fired multiple rounds. Officers returned fire. There are 6 police officers who were struck by gunfire. Thankfully, all of them are in stable condition.
NBC 10 breaking news.
It's the breaking news we've been following all evening. 6 police officers shot while trying to keep Philadelphia's streets safe. This is new video tonight of officers with the narcotics strike force arriving back at police headquarters tonight. The officers who came under fire as they tried to serve a narcotics warrant are on that strike force. It has been a long night for those officers, and thank you for joining us. I'm Jim Rosenfield.
And I'm Jacqueline London. Here's what we know right now. 2 police officers who were trapped inside the home with the shooter for several hours were safely released about 90 minutes ago. But police remain at that shooting scene in Nicetown-Tioga, where they are trying to convince the shooter to surrender.
SWAT was able to successfully extract the 2 police officers that were trapped upstairs, as well as 3 prisoners, and they were all taken out safely thus far. However, this male is still holed up inside here.
Police say this all began around 4:30 this afternoon when narcotics officers were serving a warrant at a home along North 15th Street. Police were near the kitchen area when the gunman started firing shots. 6 officers were hit. The other officers had to jump out of windows and rush through the doors to escape the bullets. The gunman continued to fire rounds, with some of them hitting police units outside and near buildings in the area of North 15th and Erie.
Shortly after the shooting, some of Philadelphia's top leaders rushed to meet with the wounded officers, their families, and other loved ones at the hospital. And we were there as Mayor Jim Kenney, Police Commissioner Richard Ross, and District Attorney Larry Krasner left Temple University Hospital tonight. And tonight we have live team coverage of the investigation, the response at the local hospitals, and also the impact on nearby businesses and families caught in the chaos today. We begin with NBC 10's Aaron Baskerville, who's been reporting for hours from near that standoff. He is still there tonight, and that standoff continues at this hour at 15th Street. Right, Aaron?
It continues right now. We are near the intersection of Erie and Sydenham. We've been here for about 5-6 hours tonight. Officers behind us are still positioned over here. Some of the rain has brought them inside of their vehicles, but for a while they had taken a defensive position. They were hiding behind cars, hiding behind their doors that were open. What we know right now is that police officers for hours and hours were trying to talk to this gunman. They were trying to get his attention using a bullhorn. They were also calling him on the phone, but he would not pick up the phone whatsoever. But we just heard in the last hour that police have made contact with him. They are talking to him, so they are hoping that this whole situation will end soon.
In the distance, you can hear the end of a volley of gunshots. We were live on TV as that went down. Officers ducked for cover and ran for safety as a gunman continued firing dozens of shots from a window near 15th and Butler. About an hour later, we heard another round of gunshots. We're told bullets hit a SWAT truck and also buildings across the street. We saw officers frantically moving around. Witnesses described a chaotic afternoon.
Over 100 shots, over rounds and rounds, gunpowder smelling, terrible, terrible. I'm afraid.
Cell phone video shows the moment shortly after 6 officers were shot. You can see neighbors crouched down behind cars while officers tried breaking down a nearby door. Investigators tell us they had been serving a search warrant for drugs around 4:30 this afternoon. When they went inside, a gunman attacked them near the kitchen.
Officers returned fire, many of whom who had to escape through windows and doors to get from a barrage of bullets.
Commissioner Richard Ross hurried back to the scene, telling us he was concerned about a potential hostage situation. Neighbors stood around the scene, concerned about their relatives stuck inside homes.
My uncle lived right here. My cousins live in this house. It's like, and they all out here. So it's just crazy, right, for it to be happening right behind where they live in.
A lot of people still cannot get back to their houses. They've been coming to the scene trying to get to this intersection, but it is still blocked off. This continues to go on. I can tell you that since we've been out here since about 4:30 this afternoon, we personally, me and my photographer Jason Ryan, have heard at least 40 to 50 gunshots, those volleys of gunshots that you heard at the top of my story. We haven't heard any gunshots for a while, so that is some good news. Let's send it back to you guys in the studio.
That is good news. Such a tense afternoon for everybody involved out there. Aaron Baskerville, thanks for your coverage.
And 3 of the officers wounded in the shooting were rushed to Temple University Hospital, while the other 3 were taken to Einstein Medical Center. NBC 10's Drew Smith is live at Temple Hospital. And Drew, you've learned all 6 officers have been released from the hospital, right?
I'm good.
Such a sense of relief here at the hospital that all 6 of those officers are either at home already or on their way there doing well, and it's not lost on anyone that this could have ended much differently. Police lined up outside a Temple University Hospital entrance and saluted as some of the officers shot left the emergency room.
It's nothing short of a miracle that we don't have multiple officers killed today.
One of those officers had bandaging on his arm, the police commissioner calling it a miracle that there weren't deaths. The 3 officers brought to Temple and the 3 at Einstein Medical Center are all released and doing well tonight.
Somebody upstairs was watching over these cops today. 6 cops, all shot, and they're all released and going home to their families. There could very well be 3 coffins leaving here and 3 leaving from Einstein.
Earlier in the evening, family members came to the ER, escorted in to see how their loved ones were doing.
The 2 little boys the officer had his head grazed just a little bit more, and those 2 little boys will grow up and out with their dad.
Mayor Jim Kenney got emotional about the gun violence in his city.
It's aggravating, it's saddening, and it's just something that we need to do something about.
And many city leaders visited both of these hospitals where these patients were being treated tonight, and they mentioned that the officers were in good spirits and actually were concerned about the officers who were still out at the scene. We're live at Temple Hospital. I'm Drew Smith, NBC 10 News.
Drew, when you hear how those officers were pinned down, it is amazing that they were released tonight from the hospital.
It was indeed. And it was a frightening time for the parents of dozens of children who were in a daycare near the scene of that police shooting.
80 children and daycare employees as well. They had to shelter in place for hours today. They were later escorted by police to a safe spot. NBC 10's Brandon Hudson continuing our team coverage now live from Nicetown-Tioga. And Brandon, you have more on just what some of those parents went through today.
Yeah, Jim and Jacqueline, as soon as news of this standoff broke, parents rushed to nearby daycares to pick up their kids, but they were turned away. A witness told us about those children in danger. Our newsroom worked the phones, and we tracked down those workers who tonight are unsung heroes. Families living in fear.
I didn't know what was going on.
Finally reunited nearly 3 hours after their first shots were fired.
And I'm assuming that it was still an accident. So when I went past there, the cops told me to get back, and I'm looking at them like, yo, my kid's down the street, like, what are you talking about?
This was the scene parents had been waiting for. Police officers with babies in their arms escorting 80 children and teachers out of a daycare center located just steps away from the shooting scene. The building placed on lockdown as a precaution.
All the children are safe.
Safe, but no doubt scared. Over the phone, the daycare's owner told NBC 10 teachers took precautions to protect those children, ranging from 6 weeks to 10 years old, from the violence happening just outside.
Normally we have like the 2-year-old room, the 3-year-old room, they all together now, so we can closely monitor them and also keep them away from the windows.
Like I left my own car to run 4 blocks. And I still gotta go get my car. Like, I don't care about the car. I only care about these kids.
Yeah, a lot of relief parents tonight. Police put a second daycare on lockdown. That one was on North Broad, and everyone was escorted to their moms and dads safely. Live in Nicetown-Tioga, I'm Brandon Hudson, NBC 10 News.
The relieving sight of all those kids exiting the daycare safely, a sight we'll never forget, and any of those watching. Brandon, thank you.
And tonight, we're hearing more of the frantic dispatch calls as crews race to get to that scene in Nicetown-Tioga.
NBC 10's Keith Jones has poured over those calls for help. He joins us now in the newsroom. Keith.
Yeah, this really brings to life the chaos of the first few seconds after the shooters started firing at officers. This is how they communicated the danger with dispatchers.
Shots fired inside.
Officers in distress calling for help while getting shot at.
Cars use caution, please, and respond.
It's right there.
They report the first officers hit by the shooter.
Still shots fired. I got officers shot at this location. It's like lower extremities of infantry.
They rushed the officers to the hospital while dealing with even more bloodshed.
We got several shots, officers. We got an officer down. I need long gun SWAT.
Police say officers are trapped inside the home in a hostage situation. It sounds like this call came from one of them.
Be advised, we're still pinned down inside this location. The male is inside the kitchen, shooting upward and forward into the opposition of the police.
And if in fact that was one of the officers who was trapped inside the house, we can report he is out safely along with his colleague. Live in the newsroom, Keith Jones, NBC 10 News.
Desperate moments right there.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Keith. Now, during the police response, an officer was also hurt heading to the scene of the shooting. Investigators say 2 police SUVs and a car were involved in a crash at Broad and Tioga Streets. One of the officers has a leg injury and has been admitted for treatment. The car driver was also hurt.
And during this tough situation, we saw acts of kindness. This young man handed out bottled water to police officers near the shooting scene. As First Alert Chief Meteorologist Tammy Souza told us, the temperatures were in the low 80s, but with the heat index, it felt like 86 degrees. A lot of goodness.
The shooting and standoff forced SEPTA to also adjust service on the Broad Street line. As of 9:30, Broad Street line cars were bypassing Hunting Park, Erie, and Allegheny stations in both directions, and that will last for the rest of the night, we're told. They will be making courtesy express stops at the North Philadelphia station.
And news of the officer shot in Philadelphia quickly spread to Washington, D.C., where President Trump received a briefing. His administration says he was monitoring the situation. Meanwhile, presidential candidates are weighing in, including former Vice President Joe Biden, who tweeted, "Dr. Biden and I send our prayers to the police officers injured today in Philadelphia and to their families who wake up every day knowing that their loved ones are walking into harm's way when they put on the badge. We are grateful for the selfless work they do to keep us safe."